Imagine a prison surrounded by freezing ocean waters, shark-infested depths, and currents so strong that even the best swimmers would drown. The world called it escape-proof. Yet one night in 1962, 3 prisoners disappeared into the darkness. No bodies were ever found. No proof of death. No proof of survival. Today, you will decide, did they die, or did they pull off the greatest prison escape in history? The prison was Alcatraz, a cold, lonely island in San Francisco Bay. Once a military fort, it was later transformed into America's toughest federal prison. This was where the government sent men who were too dangerous, too smart, or simply impossible to control. There were no trees. No mercy. Only steel, concrete, and isolation. The guards had a saying, once you enter Alcatraz, you leave in a coffin. The island was more than a prison, it was a fortress designed to break the human spirit. Its location was its greatest defense. The frigid water and vicious currents were a natural death trap. No one had ever successfully escaped, and the authorities were confident no one ever would. They called it the Rock for a reason. It was solid, unforgiving, and permanent. The daily routine was a brutal cycle of monotony and control, designed to crush any hope of freedom. But for some, hope is a stubborn thing. One of those prisoners was a man named Frank Morris. He was quiet, but his mind was constantly working. His IQ was rumored to be in the genius range, far above average. And he wasn't new to this game, he had a history of escaping from other prisons. He was a master of observation, studying machines, locks, and structures. He didn't see walls, he saw weak points. He saw opportunities where others saw only despair. Soon after arriving at Alcatraz, he wasn't alone in his thinking. He teamed up with 2 brothers, John and Clarence Anglin. They were tough, experienced bank robbers who knew how to handle pressure. The 3 of them were a perfect, dangerous combination of brains and grit. Together, in the belly of America's most secure prison, they began planning the impossible. They looked at the unbreakable fortress and decided they were going to break it. Their plan started with a simple observation. The cell walls, after decades of exposure to the salty sea air, were old and crumbling. The concrete around the ventilation grates was weak. So, using nothing but a sharpened spoon, a broken vacuum cleaner motor they had rigged into a drill, and pure, unbelievable patience, they started to scrape away at the wall. They worked every single night during the prison's designated music hour. While accordions and guitars echoed through the cell block, the sound of their digging was completely masked. Behind the wall, they discovered their pathway to freedom, a hidden, unguarded service tunnel. But getting out of the cell was just the first step. They needed to fool the guards. So, they crafted fake heads from soap, toothpaste, and toilet paper, painting them with flesh-colored paint and using real hair collected from the prison barber shop. Finally, they built a raft. Not from wood, not from metal, but from more than 50 stolen raincoats. They painstakingly glued them together, sealing the seams with heat from the steam pipes running through the prison. The entire operation took months of secret, terrifying work. Every night was a risk. One wrong move, one loud noise, and it would all be over. June 11, 1962. A thick fog rolled over the bay. It was the perfect night. Lights out. The guards began their routine patrols, their footsteps echoing down the long, empty corridors. Inside their cells, the 3 men carefully placed their fake heads on their pillows, pulling the blankets up to their necks. As a guard passed by, peering into the dim light, everything looked normal. 3 inmates, fast asleep. But they weren't. They were gone. One by one, they slipped through the holes they had carved in their walls. They climbed into the dark, dusty service tunnel, crawling through a maze of pipes and wires. They made their way to the roof of the cell block, then shimmied down a drain pipe to the ground. They raced to the shore, inflated their raincoat raft with a small, accordion-like instrument called a concertina, and at 11:30 p.m., they disappeared into the freezing black water of the San Francisco Bay. There were no alarms. No gunshots. No screams. Only the sound of the waves and the suffocating silence of the night. The next morning, the routine count began. When the guards called out to Morris and the Anglin brothers, there was no response. Annoyed, a guard reached into the cell to shake one of the men awake. He touched the head. It rolled off the bed and clattered onto the concrete floor. It was fake. Panic erupted. The alarm blared across the island. The entire prison went into an immediate lockdown. It was the most severe security breach in Alcatraz's history. An immense search was launched, one of the largest manhunts ever conducted. Boats, helicopters, and divers scoured the bay and the surrounding islands for weeks. The case was quickly handed over to the FBI. They were determined to find the escapees, dead or alive, to prove that Alcatraz was, and always would be, escape-proof. But the ocean held its secrets tight. Officially, the FBI closed the case years later, concluding that the men had drowned in the cold, treacherous waters of the bay. It was the most logical explanation. But the story didn't end there. Strange evidence kept appearing over the years, feeding the legend. A wallet belonging to one of the Anglin brothers was found floating in the water months later, containing family photos. A homemade paddle and parts of the raft washed ashore on a nearby island. Then came the whispers. Family members claimed they received strange and signed postcards from unknown locations. A childhood friend of the Anglin brothers claimed he met them in Brazil. A now famous photograph, allegedly taken in South America in the 1970s, shows two men who bear a striking resemblance to John and Clarence Anglin. Then, in 2013, a shocking letter arrived at an FBI office in San Francisco. It began with the words, "My name is Frank Morris. I escaped from Alcatraz in June 1962. I am 83 years old and in bad shape. I have cancer." The writer claimed the other two had died years ago. The FBI analyzed the letter for DNA and handwriting, but the results were inconclusive. They could never confirm if the letter was real or an elaborate hoax. So now, the mystery remains, a ghost story whispered on the cold winds of San Francisco Bay. Did three men, with nothing but spoons and raincoats, beat the most secure prison in the world? Or did the cold, dark ocean claim them forever, just as the wardens always said it would? We may never know for sure. But one thing is certain, just 1 year after the escape, Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary was shut down for good. The official reason was that it was too expensive to operate. But the escape had shattered its reputation of being unbreakable. And the legend of the three men who vanished into the night still haunts the world today. What do you think happened? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.